G'day LTR viewers and rock fans. Today we're catching up with Sean Dowdell, the drummer from Phoenix rock group Grey Daze. G'day Sean, how you going, mate?
Doing great, thanks for having me on.
No worries, buddy. First of all, mate, it must feel great to be finally getting closer to releasing the new album Amends in June this year.
It absolutely does. It's been a long time coming. We put a lot of hard work into it. I finally feel like we got to a point where, you know, Chester would have been really excited about the music that we finally completed, and it feels great to finally be at that point where we're ready for everyone else to hear it.
Oh, for sure, man. And it must have been hard for the band. I mean, especially when you just got back together early 2017 with the proposition of so much happening before the devastating passing of Chester. But it's quite humbling to be able to release it now, because it's not only an opportunity to see Chester's dream come true, but, you know, we're hearing some of the unheard music as well and honouring his legacy, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know, the biggest thing for us when Chester passed was that I lost my best friend. You know, I didn't really think about Grey Daze, so to speak. As Chester and I spent a lot of time outside of the music industry. He was my business partner. He was my best friend. We went to lunch and dinner and worked out together and ran, and we just did a lot of stuff outside of work. So, you know, losing my friend was the first thought. And then as time went on after his funeral, 6-8 months, it just ate at me and gnawed at me until the point where I couldn't not do anything about it. Decided to finish the record, and I think it was him pushing me from the other side, and the rest of the guys feel the same way.
And you work so hard, but obviously that included a lot of close discussions with the family, like Talinda and his mum Susan. They must be proud as well.
I think they're very proud. Talinda is also my friend and my business partner. Of course, I've known Chester's mom Susan and his father Lee since I've known Chester. So they've trusted me with not only their son when he was with us as his protector and his friend, but they trust me after Chester's gone. They know I have his best intentions in mind and that I would never do anything to harm him. And they all give me the green light and said, look, we know how close you and Chester were, and we want this to work out. We know how much Chester loved the music. So it was really kind of a no-brainer for them to let the project continue and to put it out.
And talking about coming full circle, it must feel awesome. I mean, you met him when he was 15. You were like his big brother. So, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously he went and did his own thing, like in the rock world. But you obviously stayed really close with him and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's sort of been a long sort of circle, hasn't it?
It is, and even though Grey Daze, we initially broke up in '98, he and I, we didn't talk for a couple of years. The first couple of years in Lincoln Park, and then 2000, 2001. We reconnected and rekindled our friendship, and we're, thick as thieves again. And, we ended up becoming business partners, and we ended up playing in a couple of little side project bands over the the mid 2000s, 2015 and, 2009, 2007. So we still, we are still connected through the music world quite a bit. So obviously, I didn't play in Lincoln Park and I was a part of that project, but I still cheered him on and was very proud of him for everything that he did in that group with those guys. And, he's just one in a million. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I just feel that you've done it really well. I mean, you even included Jamie, like Chester's son, like being able to sing with the backup vocals and like sort of working on his dad's like last project, I suppose. I mean, that's just so endearing, isn't it?
Thank you. It hit me like a lightning bolt when we were in the studio. It just something hit me in the chest that said, you know what, Chester never got to record with his children. And this is something that we could do to give back to Chester. And it just felt right the whole time we were doing it. We brought Jamie in. He sang on a track called Soul Song. He did an amazing job, and his dad would have been so proud of him. And it just felt really good to Mace and myself and to Kristen to be able to give something back to Chester. It's very hard to do, to give something back to someone who's passed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so definitely.
I thought we did it in a very respectful way that just was very endearing and very thoughtful. And I think that, Chester loved us all through that whole process and was very, very happy that we did that.
That's awesome, mate. There are also quite a few high-profile musicians that helped out on the album, like Brian Welch from Korn, Paige Hamilton from Helmet, Chris Traynor from Bush. So how did that all come about?
Well, it came about in different pieces. I've been friends with Brian Head since about 2004, 2005. And he and I were just talking via text one day, and I told him what I was up to, and I asked him if he would want to hear some of the music. I sent him over a track, and he called me right after listening to it, just freaking out. He's like, "This is unbelievably good." How, he wanted to hear more about it. So as I dove into that and explained the project, I just kind of said, "You know what? Chester would have loved to play with Brian. Let's get him and Monkey in the studio and get them on a track." And they came in and they played on a track called B12, and they absolutely destroyed it. It was awesome. And it was something that Chester never got a chance to do. And it just kind of blossomed from there. Bush was a big influence on us, in the early years. And, he was friends with Paige from Helmet. I know he had done something with Linkin Park, but it was just a natural fit. We got Marcos Curiel from POD. He came in and did a track on What's in the Eye. We had a good friend, Ryan Shuck, who was in Dead by Sunrise and Orgy. He was a very close friend of mine and Chester's. And then we got a female vocalist named LP, who is just unbelievable. She came in and sang a duet with Chester on a track called Shouting Out. It was just, we did it in a way that made sense, to where these were people that Chester either would have wanted to play with if he had a chance. They would have wanted to play with him because he was such an influence for them, or he just had a really close friendship with these people. And so with those criteria in mind, we went forward and pulled the right people into the project and made sure it was done not challenging the integrity of the initial music or the intention of what we had as a band.
Yeah.
So, and everybody came in. They were very professional, really excited. We got Jason Rauch from Breaking Benjamin came in and did a track with Head also on She Shines. And, all these people were just really excited to say thank you back to Chester. That's really what it was about. And that's how it came about. And it was done in such a respectful way.
Yeah, and you talk about the influences from Chester, like stretching far and wide. I mean, he did. He influenced, people that are young rock stars, the wannabe rock stars, and people that his own peers as well.
Absolutely. He had such an amazing vocal capability, right? But I think one of the reasons that people felt so connected with Chester wasn't just because of how he sang.
Yeah.
It was because of how he made them feel. He resonated with them emotionally through his vocal performance. And I think you only see singers do that once every generation. I think he was just very special in that way, that he could connect with people emotionally through music.
And another great thing I noticed, you recorded like a mini documentary and a few mini episodes, like with behind the scenes footage. That's pretty good, like to allow fans to sort of, get behind closed doors. And
well, thank you. Initially when we did that, there was a lot of people who don't know who I am, and that's fine. But I didn't want people to have the wrong idea of why we did this project. So we wanted to document it so people could see the heartfelt intentions of what we were doing from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think we accomplished that. I think people get an inside look as to what the intentions were and why we were doing it, how we did it. And people, I think his real fans really appreciate that. And it was a lot of work, but at the same time, I think it was work well done, and it was work well worth doing.
Yeah, I mean,
so that people could understand the whole project differently.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're coming from the right angle. It was never about to make your name get out there and that. I mean, you could have done that over the last 25, 30 years, you know what I mean? Because he was your best mate, your brother, you know what I mean? It's like... So what about you personally, Sean? I heard you run Club Tattoo and stuff. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So I have a company called Club Tattoo. We started back when we were originally in Grey Daze in 1995, and Chester became my business partner in that in 2003. And it's a luxury tattoo and piercing studio. It's very upscale, really cool, really vibey. We have 7 studios. We have studios in Las Vegas on the Strip and in Arizona, and it goes back to our roots. And it's just something we are very proud of, and still am proud of it. And it's really technology forward. It has this really cool interactive touch screens that you see when you walk in, and we saw lots of gold and diamond jewelry, and it's just a really cool, hip atmosphere. And there's not much. I always used to tease Chester. I said, the only thing that rock stars look up to are tattoo artists. So we would bust each other's balls that way a little bit back and forth, and it's just something that we just had this cool connection through the business, and we loved working on it together. And we were business partners right up until the time he passed, and something that was very important to him. He loved Club Tattoo, and obviously my wife and I, we run Club Tattoo, and we still do, and it's very important to us as well.
And what about the future? Is that the final offering from Grey Daze, or are there plans to continue on?
So we have enough material to do at least an album more, if not 2 more records.
Oh, brilliant.
I get a lot of questions about people asking us if we're going to play live, and you know, it would feel a bit disingenuous for us to work for the last 3 years on completing a project about Chester, for Chester, and with Chester, and then as soon as we finish, we go, oh, here's a new singer. That doesn't feel right.
No,
so we don't want to do that. The only way we would play live is if we did it in a tribute fashion, where we brought in some guest singers and did like a tribute concert for and by Chester, you know, with that intention in mind. So that is interesting to us. We would do something like that, but we're not going to go out and tour and try to replace him. That just doesn't make any sense.
No. Mate, and Sean, just some personal questions to finish off. What was the first ever drum kit you bought?
First ever drum kit I bought was a no-name drum kit. I think it was probably handmade. It was for $80 off of a guy I knew back in my high school. I was 17 years old. I had just started playing drums, and he was trying to get rid of an old drum set. It had one cymbal and a hi-hat, and all the pedals and stuff were broken. It was the biggest piece of crap you could ever see. But you know what? I loved it, and I sat on it, and I played on it every single day and just tried to learn and get better.
Unreal. What about the first ever car or motorcycle you bought?
First ever car I bought was a 1992 Camaro RS. It had red racing stripes up the middle. It was black. It was the coolest freaking car ever. I loved it. And I had that car for 5 years and loved it.
Unreal. Your favourite drink?
My favorite drink is Captain Morgan Black and Diet Coke with a lime. And
musical influences growing up?
So some of my biggest musical influences would be Depeche Mode, would be Alice in Chains, would be Pearl Jam. You would see The Cure. Don't laugh at me, but you'd see a lot of Kiss music in there. I was a huge Kiss fan back in the day.
Yeah.
And then probably through the mid-2000s, I would say the band Keane. Keane was a band that Chester and I really shared a lot with. We used to listen to them together quite a bit. They had a lot of, even though I wasn't physically writing music when we were listening to it, they've been a huge musical influence over the past 10 years.
And what about, finally, the best place you've ever played live?
The best place I've ever played live? Man, that's a great question. I would have to say, there's different shows that have different exciting paths, but there's a place called Octane Pavilion. Was probably the biggest place I've ever played, but the best show I ever played was probably the Super Bowl party in 1995 in Tempe, Arizona, with No Doubt. That was a pretty amazing show, and I just remember that day quite well. It was really cool.
Unreal. Well, mate, Sean, Linkin Park, I was going to say, was actually one of my favourite bands growing up. I actually met Chester probably years and years ago at the City Entertainment Centre, had my two sons with me, and we still reminisce about that night. Like I said, he truly was a legend, mate, like, you know, had a voice that we'll never hear again. But I suppose it's time I start getting into Grey Daze now, mate.
I hope so, yeah. Well, you know, it's not an either-or thing, and I don't ever want to make it a competition between Grey Daze and Linkin Park, because Grey Daze was before Linkin Park, and it was one of the last projects that Chester ever did, and I was very proud of him. We're all very proud of him for the work that he did at Linkin Park. So, you know, there's nothing says you can't love more than one band, and hopefully because you love Chester, you'll love Grey Daze as well.
Definitely, man. Now, I really want to thank you for your time, mate, and what you've been doing, Sean, what you've done. I think it's really great, buddy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.